Lord Murugan holds an absolutely unshakable place at the very center of Tamil civilization. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating historical investigation. We are going to use ancient literature, archaeology, and some incredibly visceral cultural memories to try and uncover the true origins of this eternal guardian. It's a complex story, so let's get into it.
Here is the roadmap for our investigation today. We'll start with the modern origins controversy, then travel back to the ancient Kurinji landscape, explore the visceral Valan ritual, break down the Puranic synthesis, and finally, look at Morgan's role as the eternal guardian.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the origins controversy, and see what sparked this whole modern debate.
So here is the big question that sits at the core of our explainer. Was the deity Murugan born in the towering, snowy peaks of the northern Himalayas, or did he originate deep within the rugged, mountainous landscapes of the ancient south? It's a geographical mystery that has sparked some serious cultural debate recently.
The modern catalyst for this debate actually came from a recent pan-Indian movie poster. It used this specific quote, "Born in the north, raised in the heartland, and worshipped in the south." Now, by claiming the deity's origins lie in northern India, the filmmakers triggered a massive reaction among Tamil cultural enthusiasts. But to really understand the uproar, we have to neutrally examine the historical texts that both sides are using to back up their claims.
The folks arguing for a northern origin actually point to some specific late Sangam era texts. We're talking about texts like the Paripadal and the Tirumuruga Trupadai, dating roughly from the 2nd to the 4th centuries CE. These ancient texts specifically feature verses associating Murugan's birth with the Himalayas and lotus flowers. Now, if you just stopped your research right there, a northern origin seems highly plausible, right? But as we'll see, these texts represent layered cultural memories over time, not necessarily a single fixed beginning.
Which brings us perfectly to our second section, looking at the Kurinji landscape and the ancient deity Seon.
To find the absolute earliest literary footprints, we have to wind the clock back even further. We look at foundational Tamil texts like the Tolkappiyam, along with early Sangam works like the Kurunthogai and Akananuru. These foundational texts divided the world into very distinct geographical landscapes, and they firmly root the early iteration of our deity, who was known back then as Seon, exclusively in what they called the Kurinji, which is the mountainous landscape of the south. Now, think about the defining attributes of this Kurinji landscape. It's characterized by the terrain of the Western Ghats, and most importantly, it's named after the indigenous Kurinji flowers. Here's the real light bulb moment. Those flowers bloom exclusively in these southern mountain ranges. They are literally completely absent from the Himalayas. Plus, early archaeological evidence and ancient hill settlements linked this guardian deity so intimately to the southern terrain and millet cultivation. The logic here is that a god so deeply tied to a uniquely southern flower couldn't have just originated in the far north. Let's transition into Section 3 now, where things get really fascinating. We're going to examine the ancient ritual of valor. This ancient ritual offers us a profound indigenous window into how early tribal societies actually worshiped this mountain guardian. This wasn't your quiet, standard temple visit. Valor was a highly charged shamanic possession ritual. It relied heavily on trance, intense rhythm, and divine invocation. The priest, known as the Velan, would literally channel the mountain deity to offer prophecies, heal the sick, and guide the local community. It's a direct link to early Tamil spiritual practices.
The physical details of this ancient ritual are wild when you compare them to the more sanitized worship we see today. They would start by spreading sand to build a ceremonial mount. Then the Velalan, holding a spear and wearing thick garlands of red canthal flowers, would enter a deep trance fueled by drumming and chanting. But here's the most striking part. This early mountain deity accepted very visceral offerings, specifically meat and the blood of a young sheep mixed with millet. This firmly anchors Murugan's earliest roots in the indigenous hunter-gatherer societies of early Tamilaka.
So how did we get from that ancient tribal practice to the modern deity? Let's break that down in Section 4, the Puranic synthesis.
This timeline is absolutely crucial for our explainer. It maps out the deity's incredible evolution over millennia. It starts way back in deep antiquity with early hunting societies worshipping the mother goddess Katravai and her son. Then the Tolkappiyam solidifies the mountain deity Seon. A few centuries later, those late Sangam texts we talked about introduce a Himalayan connection. That's followed by the massive Sanskrit text, the Skanda Purana, which standardizes Kartikeya.
And finally, by the 14th and 15th centuries, we see this incredible Tamil integration that anchors him to sacred southern geographies like Palani and Tertchendor. It really boils down to the stark contrast between two traditions. On one hand, you have Sayan, the ancient, indigenous, meat-accepting god of the southern mountains, who is deeply tied to nature and tribal warfare. On the other hand, you have Kartikeya, the later, vegetarian, highly Sanskritized deity born of cosmic fire to protect the heavens. The historical reality is that over many centuries, these two incredibly distinct entities were brilliantly synthesized into one unified figure.
To understand that later half of the synthesis, we look at the Skanda Purana. Vedic influence introduced this massive new narrative where the deity is conceived from Shiva's intense, fiery sparks. The fire is so unbearably hot that it has to be carried by the Ganges River, and it's ultimately placed in a Himalayan reed forest. There, the child is raised by 6 maidens, the Kritikas, because he's destined to defeat a powerful demon. This specific narrative right here, this is exactly where the northern birth claims originate.
But why did these two very different traditions fully merge in the south? Well, picture this. In the 14th century, Tamil Nadu faced heavy political instability and invasions. Society was left deeply fractured. There was an urgent, desperate societal need for a unifying, victorious guardian figure. This need prompted the great poet Arunagiran author in the 15th century to write the Thirupugash. His work popularized a unified worship that seamlessly blended the ancient tribal hero with the cosmic Puranic warrior, creating a unified Murugan for the masses.
And that leads us to our 5th and final section, looking at Murugan as the eternal Tamil guardian. Today, it is safe to say Murugan's legacy is completely inseparable from Tamil identity. You can see it clearly in his enduring indigenous romance with Vali, a local tribal girl, which remains a fiercely southern tradition. We see his legacy alive right now in the visually stunning Kavadi rituals performed globally by the Tamil diaspora. We see it in everyday family naming conventions and even in his commanding presence in modern digital culture and cinema. He's not just a historical figure. Actually, he's more like an absolute living cultural emotion.
We've tracked the evidence from the snowy Himalayas all the way down to the Western Ghats. We've gone from ancient sand mounds and visceral rituals to grand Puranic texts. So I'll leave you with this thought. If deities evolve right alongside their people, is his true birthplace really a fixed spot on a geographic map? Or is it literally woven into the enduring cultural memory of Tamil civilization? While the traditions certainly evolved, one truth remains absolute. Murugan is the eternal Tamil guardian, forever rooted in the mountains, songs, and rituals of Tamilakam. Thank you for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the history around you.